I wanted to speak with you particularly because you're a soul specialist. So you've written some books. Tell me, what is the soul? How can you describe to us the soul?
Well, the soul is our essence. It's our life force. It's that part of ourselves that keeps us alive and thriving. And I practice shamanism, which is a very ancient system of healing and a practice of direct revelation, of working with helping spirits. And from a cross-cultural, traditional shamanic point of view, whenever we suffer an emotional or physical trauma, a piece of our soul, a piece of our essence might leave our body in order to survive the experience. And that's called soul loss. And so in shamanism, it's the role of the shaman to be able to retrieve those parts of our essence, that part that keeps us very connected to this world, alive and happy and healthy, back to the body again.
Oh, that's so interesting. I never heard about this before. Can you tell us more about that? So a part of ourselves, of our soul leaves because it hurt, or what's
Yes, and it's a survival mechanism. So if I'm going to be in a head-on car collision, the very last place that I want to be at the point of impact is in my body. So the body has a brilliant self-protect mechanism. It goes away while a trauma is occurring so that we don't get the full impact of the pain. So in our culture, I'm a psychotherapist, and so I'm always looking at how do we bridge such an ancient practice of shamanism into a modern day culture. And in our culture, where we see soul loss happening is emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, accidents, war, which we're dealing with on a huge level globally right now, being in a natural disaster such as a fire, an earthquake, an accident, surgery, the death of a loved one. And, you know, to give a simple example, when your alarm clock goes off in the middle of the night, or if a phone rings in the middle of the night, there's a shock that happens and you feel spaced out for the rest of the day. That's a minor level of soul loss. And with these bigger traumas, there's a bigger piece of our soul that goes away. Again, it's a self-protect mechanism. The psyche has this brilliant self-protect mechanism. We go away while pain is occurring so that we don't get the full impact. In psychology, we talk about this as dissociation. But in psychology, we don't talk about what dissociates or where that what dissociates goes to. We just use the word dissociation. In shamanism, we talk about that a piece of our soul goes away and that it needs to be retrieved once again.
Does it literally do that, or how can you actually know? How did you discover about this?
Well, in shamanism, we talk about that there's what we call non-ordinary reality or parallel realms to here. The Australian Aborigines call it the dream time. The Celtic shamans talk about it as the other world. And in these other worlds are helping spirits, compassionate spirits who help us to live our life in a good and healthy way. And from a shamanic point of view, the soul actually goes into these hidden realms. And so a shaman, with the help of his or her helping spirits, can actually travel into these hidden realms and track down where the soul has gone to. Shamanism is what's called the path of direct revelation, meaning that we all have the ability to work with these helping spirits to be able to give us guidance and healing. And so shamanic practitioners learn how to make contact with their helping spirits so that when a client comes complaining about post-traumatic stress syndrome or continual illness or depression or suicidal tendencies, the shaman or the shamanic practitioner will travel to his or her helping spirits in these hidden realities and say, my client is complaining about this. Can you give me the spiritual cause of this illness? Shamanism deals with the spiritual cause of the illness. And one of the classic causes of illness that we see cross-culturally around the world is what's called soul loss. So it would be helping spirits who would give the diagnosis of what healing ceremony needs to be performed.
So how can we apply this in our life? Is there a time before going to bed, something that we can do? Because apparently our soul leaves our body during our sleep. I don't know if this is something that you can confirm. Is there something that we can do before going to bed? Maybe a little ritual that will help heal part of that soul loss, or how did you call it?
Well, yeah, from a shamanic point of view, the fact that another person is willing to intervene in the spiritual realms on your behalf is where the power comes from. But in today's world, there's an evolution of consciousness that's happening, and there's a huge evolution that's happening in shamanic practices. And for many of us, we need to learn how to be shamans for ourselves and healers for ourselves. And so definitely either before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning to really set an intention of calling back any lost soul parts. Come back and take your rightful place in my body again. And then the essential part of the work for me, where my real passion is once the soul is back, is teaching people what I call life after healing, of how to live a healthy life that's filled with passion and meaning, because that's really our destiny on the planet.
So can we what is the heart, does our heart has a role in this? Sorry. Does our heart?
Always. Shamanism is the path of the heart. Shamans see through their heart. And, one of the gifts of being in a body in this time, if you think of the spiritual realm and you think of overpopulation on planet Earth right now, everybody wants to come in and have a body because we are spirits. We're the same as the helping spirits that the shamans travel to, but we're in a body this time. And we came in to experience love and to experience a heart that not only loves but feels a whole range of anger, frustration, depression, and learning how to deal with that. And to experience the senses, to be able to smell fragrances and to be able to see colors and to be able to hear the sounds of children and birds singing, and to taste the amazing taste. Think of how many spirits are trying to get in here right now to have these incredible bodies. And so it's a real gift to be here. And so many people on the planet have forgotten that. We've gotten lost in pain and suffering. We've forgotten how to love. We've forgotten that that's why we've really come in here. And all spiritual paths can lead us back to that again, to really be fully embodied. And so the key of soul retrieval is when you're dissociated, you don't see so well, you don't hear so well, you're kind of in between the worlds. And so by calling your soul back again, and then really feeling yourself embodied, being aware of your environment, feeling the love and the preciousness of life, is a real key to healing for all of life on the planet right now. If we reject life, we don't thrive. And a lot of people are rejecting life right now on different levels.
Well, yeah, when fear kicks in and there is some scary things happening on this physical world. So
right.
What would be your recommendation or advice for somebody that wants to be back in his soul, wants to be back in his heart and open his heart and live fully this essence, but their reality might be so scary that, as you said, they've lost maybe such a big amount of their soul that how can you restore that?
Well, I think that what's happening as we're shifting consciousness, there's a huge change in consciousness starting to happen right now. And from a spiritual perspective and from a shamanic perspective, we're more than our bodies. We're more than our egos. We're not separate beings. When you travel within yourself, what you really are is spiritual light. We talk about today body, mind, and spirit. What does spirit actually mean? Spirit actually means the eternal part of ourselves, that divine light, that divine presence. It can never be hurt. It can never be harmed. And so when we focus only on the body, when we focus only on the mind, we move into an egoic state. And the bottom line is, as egos, we're not safe here, because everything in the material world dies. Everything in the material world will dissolve and will evolve. The spiritual part of us is eternal, and I think that that's where, in my opinion, that's where human consciousness is moving to right now. When we talk about 2012 and all the changes, I don't see it as a real death. I see it as a metaphorical death of getting us more in touch with our spiritual aspect, our divine self, our divine light. And when you're in a divine light, this is what spiritual masters and teachers and healers and shamans have been trying to teach us for thousands of years, that we're connected and there's oneness and we are source, we are creative beings, we are divine light. And when you can remember that, there is no fear, and you can fully engage in life and be back in a place of awe and wonder and really appreciate the preciousness that life brings to us. So the key, that we're so lost in the material world right now, we've forgotten about the eternal and the spirit that lives in all things, and that's really what we need to get back again.
So life is then magic.
Life is magic, and it's really simple to be able to do this. What I teach my students how to do, and what I write so much about, is, just to put on some nice music, something relaxing, something that doesn't have words to it, because then the words put you back up into your mind. To take some really deep breaths through your heart. Put your hands on your heart and really take some deep breaths through your heart. And to imagine yourself traveling within. Our bodies are light, but to imagine ourselves really traveling within ourselves. Imagine the mind dissolving and the body dissolving, and just allowing that light to shine forth. Again, spiritual traditions have been teaching us about our own luminosity, to be a light in the world. Light heals, light transforms all fear, all illness, all states of separation. And what I tell people is just lie in bed and experience that luminosity, or be in a comfortable chair and just experience that for a while. Experience that energetic flow moving through the body. It's really quite beautiful, and it's incredibly healing. And it puts one on the track of the river of life instead of flowing against the river of life. And it just creates a state of harmony again, and it alleviates some of the fear that comes up.
So can you tell us why we talk about beings of light? Can you expand on that so we get an idea of exactly what it means?
It's a luminous part of ourselves. So like if anybody has ever been around a really great healer, or a really great person, a really great leader, when they walk into a room, they have a presence that everybody is aware of. That whole energy of the room changes by their presence. So what I teach is that what we need to learn right now is to bring back the feminine principle of it's who we become that changes the world, and not what we do.
I love that
and
quote.
So
I love that.
Yeah, and so that presence transforms. You're in a room with a great healer, a great leader, And there's a light that's shining out of them. There's a presence that's shining out of them. Jesus talked about being a light in the world. Don't hide your light in a basket. When you look at pictures of the Buddha, there's a luminosity around the Buddha. I'm just trying to give some examples that come from different spiritual traditions. When you look at saints, you see a nimbus around them of a luminosity. And what we need to get in this time is that presence, that great presence that we see people hold, is all of us. It's not just for a select few. We're all born with that spiritual light. And it's time for us to be able to transform the pain and suffering and the illness in the world by all of us finding that light and learning how to shine it throughout the day. Now, that's a very simple thing to say, but, I drive to the post office every day. I get stuck in traffic. How do we stay in that light when we're being really triggered? And one of the things that I've been trying to teach people, and I write about a lot, is that we are human beings, so there's a paradox that we have to learn how to dance, and that paradox is that we are these divine beings, we are spiritual light, we are complete love, and we can shine that in the world, and yet as an ego who has to run errands every day and go to work, there are certain triggers that happen to us. Sometimes we feel like we've been kicked in a meeting by the energy, or that daggers are coming out of somebody's eyes, or that a bomb went off in a room, energetically because of the anger that's going on. And so what we need to learn how to do, and this is a practice, it's something that we don't want to judge ourselves about, but it's learning how to, when I get triggered by something that somebody says, or somebody tailgating me, or rage driving, or somebody being mean to me at the grocery store, is how do I bring up that light inside of myself and realize there's a bigger picture going on here, and to say, I'm very angry right now, but I don't want to send that anger out into the world, because that's creating illness, toxins, environmental pollution. Our outer world is a reflection of our inner state of consciousness. And so as we learn how to tap into those spiritual states and say, yes, I got triggered, and I can transform that by making a decision to ask that energy be transformed to an energy of love and light that goes out into the world, we can really change the world by our being.
But as you said, Marianne Williamson had this quote about it, what we fear the most is our light. Isn't that crazy? What we're afraid of is our light, is our success, is us being this full, expanded human being. It's not so much the darkness, but our light that scares us.
It can, yes, it can. I think that, we were all born with an incredible creative brilliance. We all were born as a reflection of our Creator. All myths, creation myths, talk about that. But we grew up in a society where we grew up in a society of power over. And that means that if everybody got in touch with their creativity, we wouldn't accept the systems of power over that we're seeing today. We would have to shift to a different way of life. So society does what society can to say there are only a few creative geniuses in the world, and you're not one of them. And if you shine your light too brightly, you're going to stand out and you're going to get into trouble. So what people are doing is they're repressing their creativity, and it's making everybody sick. Because when you repress that energy, when you repress that creativity, you lose passion for life. Look at the bacteria and the viruses that are thriving right now. We can't come up with vaccines and medicines quick enough because they have such passion for life. They won't be put down. When you look at human beings and you look at the eyes of human beings today, when you look at indigenous people, they have such an inner wealth. It doesn't matter what's happening on the outer world. There's a light, there's a joy shining out of their lives that we don't see in people today. And that's because we bought into a belief system. We're not creative beings. We were trained to be factory workers, how to behave, not how to shine. And so people are afraid of standing out because that's what we learned in our family systems. But the question we have to ask, each and every one of us has to ask, is how is that working? Do you, when you look in the mirror, are your eyes shining? Is there an inner joy moving through you? When you wake up in the morning, are you saying, God, I'm so happy that I'm here another day? Or is it, oh my God, this is all I have to do to get through my day? So we're surviving, but we're not thriving. And so, yes, society has told us to keep our light in or you're going to stand out too much. But the question is it working? And then we all have to be able to stand in our power and start to tap into our own creativity, because that's what it's going to take right now to really heal our planet. Is not just a few, but it's going to be a global community coming together, really being willing to share their creative brilliance in order to make the changes that need to happen on the planet right now.
Yeah, we really need to understand that we are one, and we're and connect all the souls wanting to help and make that shift of consciousness all come together.
I think that if people, if we could follow what came from different traditions around the world, we have unlimited power right now as a global community to create change. If we could focus our energies together and focus our lights together. This is, again, something that I'm very passionate about writing about. I write it on a monthly column. I have a new book coming out, How to Thrive in Changing Times, of what we can do as a global community to create change. It's really unlimited, and the teachings haven't been around for thousands of years. This isn't new teachings. Communities of people around the world have always been able to create change. We just need to learn how to be willing to tap into our creative brilliance. We need to learn how to concentrate our efforts and our light together. We need to learn how to focus our vision on the world we want to live in instead of complaining about the world that we have. And in shamanism and other spiritual traditions, it's taught that how we do that is through watching our thoughts and our words. Our thoughts and our words are things, and they manifest. And so through practice, as a global community, if we learn how to focus our dreams of the world we do want to live in and the world we want to leave our descendants, and then to focus our thoughts and our words on what would align with that actual physical manifestation.
And how can we go beyond some structures that are already so solidly anchored, such as politics or government or media? Some structures, is the light going to make that difference? I mean, how do you go beyond those big walls, those institutions that are in place?
Basically, if we could look at that, institutions right now, politics, are not really helping people who are suffering economically through environmental disasters right now, dealing with a lot of different kinds of illnesses, dealing with depression. And so basically, communities, if you look at what's happening, I'm just going to use what happened in New Orleans as an example after Hurricane Katrina. It wasn't the government that came in that helped. It was communities coming together and helping each other. And so basically, I think that that's what we're going to be seeing more and more of in the coming times is community strength, people sharing their gifts and their strengths with each other to help each other out. And in this way, we're going to move more into people coming together in their individual communities.
Very, very nice. And I wanted to finish by a little formula, because you've created a formula, haven't you?
Yes.
Intention plus love plus union and focus plus concentration and harmony and imagination equals transmutation.
Yes. And what that means, just briefly, is if we set an intention, what do we want? And we open our hearts in love to all of life on the planet. And we remember that we're part of a web of life. We're all one. There's unity with each other. And we do our spiritual work to find harmony within. And we concentrate on and keep our focus on a vision for the future. And we imagine by seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling what we want to see for this planet in the future, it will be so.
Would you like to finish by a last little message to everybody watching this interview, a message that you would like to say that you haven't said, or that you want to really put the...
Well, what I'd really like for people to get is we were all born with this creativity, and all spiritual traditions teach that everything, this has been taught for thousands of years, everything starts on the spiritual world before it manifests in the physical. And so where we have power to create change right now, for those of us listening who feel hopeless, we do have power to create change by the spiritual work that we do. And that means remembering that we are light, we are creative beings, and to hold to the vision of what we want to see. We can, as a global community, make that happen. We are completely unlimited on what we can create right now.
Thank you so much. I've been very, very moved by your words and this conversation. Really, thank you, Sandra, for sharing so passionately your message.
Thank you, Lilu, and I really appreciate all the work that you're doing to bring the work to the global community to help in these coming times.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.